Imagine walking through a bustling factory in the 1870s. Machines clanking, steam hissing, workers moving with persistent speed to keep up with the demands of the Second Industrial Revolution. The air is thick with dust and fumes, the promise of progress driving every invention and innovation. But hidden beneath this era of mechanical triumph was a silent killer, lead poisoning, claiming over 35,000 lives. Few took notice, but one woman, Alice Hamilton, would dedicate her life to exposing these industrial dangers, reshaping the rights of workers, and holding employers accountable for their safety. At a time when at least 1/3 of the United States population held a manual labor job, half of whom were exposed to dangerous working environments, Hamilton's groundbreaking investigations into industrial diseases helped expose the devastating impact of toxic substances like lead and mercury on workers' health, while catalyzing legislative reforms, including establishing workplace safety standards and laws to mitigate the spread of occupational diseases. Hamilton helped set the civic responsibilities of industries and governments to protect public health. She redefined the relationship between labor and legislation, leaving an enduring legacy in the fight for economic justice and workers' rights. In the 1870s, post-Civil War America transformed from a largely agricultural society to an urban economy. This period, known as the Gilded Age, was marked by rapid industrialization, urbanization, and European immigration. Accompanying this industrialization was the spreading of diseases, not only because of increased immigration, but also due to the dangerous workplaces and exposure to toxic substances in the surrounding working environment. All of the power was in the hands of the capitalists, and workers' rights were overlooked. Samuel Gompers, an American labor union organizer and the president of the American Federation of Labor, once stated, "There was a time when workmen were denied the right of leaving their employers when they were part of the soil, owned by their employers, and any attempt on their part to leave was regarded as the escape of a slave. They were brought back, imprisoned, and branded." Born in New York City and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Alice Hamilton earned her medical degree in 1893 before moving to Chicago, where she joined Hull House, a coalition of leading Progressive-era activists such as Jane Addams to help immigrant workers.
Alice Hamilton was a special student in the 1890s at our medical school. And then she went on to found the field of industrial medicine. So what this meant is that she went into factories and smelters and paint manufacturers and studied the dangers of the workplace.
At the onset of the 1890s, Hamilton treated working-class immigrant patients at Hull House. During her 22 years living there, Hamilton educated herself about how diseases, toxic chemicals, and workplace injuries were detrimental to the lives of the impoverished. Inspired, she started publishing studies on what was then called industrial diseases. Later in her autobiography, published in 1943, Hamilton wrote, "It was also my experience at Hull House that aroused my interest in industrial diseases. I could not fail to hear tales of dangers that working men faced, of cases of carbon monoxide gassing in the great steel mills, of painters disabled by palsy, of pneumonia and rheumatism among the men in the stockyards," highlighting the importance of immersing herself in the daily lives of the working class, people with low-paying jobs and physical labor. In 1908, due to the rising number of diseases in the workforce, Illinois Governor Charles Deneen appointed Alice Hamilton to head a survey on industrial diseases in Illinois, despite opposition. In addition to managing this survey, Hamilton studied lead, the most widely used industrial poison, realizing that it was her responsibility to reveal safety concerns in the workplace. Hamilton investigated factories, hospital records, and labor reports, uncovering more than 70 industrial processes in which workers were exposed to lead poisoning. For example, she found unusual contact methods, such as polishing cut glass and wrapping cigars in tin foil, to be contaminating people. With all this knowledge and her new findings, Hamilton wrote her autobiography exploring the dangerous trades in 1943, where she displayed her results to the world. In one hospital, she found a Polish worker suffering from colic and double wrist drop. He said he worked in a sanitary ware factory applying enamel to bathtubs. After assuring Hamilton that lead was not used, the factory managers let her inspect the workroom. Astonishingly, a specimen one worker gave her contained as much as 20% lead. Thus, I nailed down the fact, Hamilton wrote, that sanitary ware enameling was a dangerous trade in the United States.
She was able to identify the source of lead exposure and then trace it as the cause. It caused sterility. It caused birth defects in the next generation. And it caused hematologic abnormalities, which we now know also included cancer.
Simultaneously, the Illinois Survey on Industrial Disease proved the connection between occupation and illness, further solidifying Hamilton's research. During this time, Hamilton's work in Illinois caught the attention of Charles Neal, the Commissioner of Labor. Neal requested Hamilton to do what she did in Illinois on a national scale. Hamilton accepted the offer. By doing so, she launched a nearly decade-long investigation of health hazards in the workplace, specifically targeting lead. Hamilton's work in the field of industrial hygiene was so well known that she was sought out by the dean of the Harvard Medical School to join the faculty of their newly introduced industrial hygiene program. But despite this accomplishment, Hamilton still faced gender-based restrictions.
Hamilton was hired by Harvard, but as a woman, she was not allowed to walk in graduation ceremonies and was not given tickets to football games.
In 1919, she was appointed assistant professor of industrial medicine and became the first female faculty member, all while at a time when women were not yet allowed to enroll in universities. In 1934, the Bureau of Labor Statistics was created as the focal point for those interested in job safety and occupational health. Regardless of Hamilton's success, she faced strong opposition as a pioneer in industrial toxicology. For example, during the 1930s, women were not primarily regarded in the medical field because, as one journalist stated, they are unwilling to find the balance between education and life outside of medicine, highlighting the prejudice that women have many more obligations outside of work. Hamilton also faced opposition from more powerful men who couldn't back down from using lead in their corporations. Hamilton criticized Charles Kettering, head of research for General Motors, for using leaded gasoline in May of 1925, stating, "You're nothing but a murderer." Kettering laughed off the insult, disregarding Hamilton's research on the subject.
I think it's entirely appropriate to commemorate the life of Alice Hamilton. Her work for the state of Illinois, the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the U.S. Department of Labor laid the groundwork for activity in occupational safety and health at both the state and federal levels. I don't think it's an overstatement at all to say she helped invent occupational safety and health.
Between 1970 and 2019, the percentage of women in STEM grew to 27% due to increasing education and employment opportunities for female scientists, due to the work of people like Hamilton. Thanks to Hamilton's advocacy for the protection of all workers, our workplace is much safer than it was 100 years ago.
There are historical references to the dangers of lead that go back to the Romans. Most people weren't aware, and they thought maybe it was dangerous if you ate it, like would get on food, but didn't think much about breathing it. And she's the one that established that breathing is actually the greater danger and leads to more damage and more deaths.
Her work against the use of toxic substances in the workplace sparked the Occupational Safety and Health Act. Today, OSHA ensures a safe and healthy working environment by setting and enforcing standards and providing training, outreach, and assistance for workers worldwide. Alice Hamilton's pioneering work redefined the relationship between labor and legislation, highlighting workers' rights and employers' responsibilities to protect those rights. By shedding light on the mortalities in the industrial workforce, she catalyzed a transformation in public awareness and in legislation. Her pathology training and her knowledge of working-class life made her the spearhead of the occupational safety movement in the United States, proving that one voice, armed with the truth, can change the course of history.